Finish.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, I had to get this update going. It's almost done. It's installing. I can't even believe they did that. Like, what's the point of the update? But it seemed like a lot of other things were updating too. So
Yeah, that's what they do, man. They sneak in a few stuff here and there, and
yeah, they're like, hey man, you weren't on the Wi-Fi, dog, so we didn't do anything for you.
oh god,
So it'll probably take one more minute or so. So it says installing, whatever it is installing.
got no water here. Not good.
What? Maybe some kind of okay. Now, all right. The app is updated. Going off of Notify. Going back in the game, and I'm I'm updated now. Hopefully,
Okay, so I can go live, right?
so start it. Start it.
So don't forget to mute the
And I
stream
can't
now.
hear you on this one no more. I'm actually just on live.
Okay.
Okay,
Um.
start.
Okay. Cool.
I'm minding my business that pays me. Oh,
So, yep. Cool.
go big or stay home. Big Four executive founder, the rich immigrant.
Cool.
10 a.m.
We're finally back.
Hmm.
We're live.
Well, I'm on here. Did you start the live? Okay, now I see it.
You know when you're on.
Okay.
What's going on, everybody?
I don't see the
What's
ad,
up,
but
everybody?
okay, I see the request. I see the request.
Lawrence
Send a
is here.
request. That's new.
So let's give a few more minutes. Oh, okay. See, now I finally see the request. Yep, yep, got it. Yes. What's up,
Yeah, I didn't get
everybody?
that
What's up?
option
What's up?
before.
Perfect. Can you hear me,
Yeah, I
Lawrence?
can hear you. I'm 100%. I'm just trying to see if it's why it's blurry in the front of the screen. I'm like, I'm doing the Haitian thing. I'm looking for something to nettoyer. Like, yo, just nettoy it, duh. Just do it. Like, there's
Exactly.
nothing. That's funny. There's nothing nearby that's like a cloth that I could nettoy stuff with. Let's see.
You'll be all right, man. You'll be fine. What's going on, everybody? What's up? What's up? Let's give a few more minutes to get more
Whatever.
people
It's
on the
kind of a.
live. And we're actually live on YouTube as well. So, but stay on here. Stay on here.
Woo! That was a exciting morning.
Very exciting morning.
I love that kind of stuff. The little techie stuff at the end. They're like, hey, it's all falls apart.
Right? And last minute, too. It's like, it doesn't want to work.
It's like, what happened? But people always panic. I remember people always panicking when things like this happen and they completely lose their composure. I'm like, it's tech, man. Always gonna have
It
something.
happens, man.
It's yeah, you don't know what's going on.
You have to be
Ha.
ready for it.
Yeah, mentally. Some people ain't ready. Make sure
Cool.
this
We
is.
have chocolate on fire here.
Oh, so they're probably on fire. They're doing the financial independence, retire early.
Yes, sir. Yes,
It's a
sir.
thing now. It's a thing. Shoot, I'm gonna
Vanessa.
do it, and I'm just gonna walk away. Dog. I'm like, yeah, y'all be acting too brand new with this.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's get this thing started. What's going on, everybody? What's up? What's up? Tell me where you're from, where you're listening from. I know Lawrence is in DC right now, 30 degrees.
30
Living
degrees, man. Amazon told well, Alexa told me what time it was, what temperature it was.
man,
Woo.
that's not for me at all, man. Anything below 74 is not me.
No, actually, I actually don't mind it. For a certain amount of time. I think the extension of winter, the way it kind of goes for like a couple of months, freaks me out. But if it's for a couple, like maybe a month, it'd be not bad. Not bad. I actually like it versus 100-degree summers.
Man, you gotta come back to Florida, man. Come
I
back
ain't
to
coming back
Florida.
to Florida ever, man. I'm like, if I could avoid it, I'm like, I ain't coming back.
All
I could
right,
keep it.
man. So let's get this thing started. So, guys, if you notice me looking at this way, I'm also live on YouTube. So I have two screen in front of me. I'm doing this whole techie thing here. Um, hey, what's up, Katya? So I'm doing this whole techie thing here. So bear with me. Um, so let's get this thing started, man. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Luther. I am the co-founder of Haitian Millennial Money. Merlin and I last year we decided to join forces to create this platform in an effort to, I guess, normalize financial literacy in our community by having different events and bringing in different guests, to have transparent conversations about money, about personal finance, investing, as well as entrepreneurship. So, big shout out to Merlin. I know she's under the live. She's doing an amazing job. She's been doing it, in our community. She's doing an amazing job on our platform as well. She's been posting some fire content lately, so it's amazing to see. So, kudos to you, Merlin. Um, so today, as you all can see, we have a guest with us, a special guest. I think this is probably the third interview we're gonna have because I think last time um it was at the conference, right? So and then we end up having another interview on my podcast, which is Cohen Podcast. Shameless plug, by the way. If you guys don't know about Cohen, go check it out. We've been having some amazing conversations with amazing Haitians in our community. So go check it out. But I think this is our third time, and this brother has been dropping a lot of gems in our community, pushing personal finance, pushing financial literacy in our community, and he's been doing that for quite some time now. And it's an honor for me to introduce you to Lawrence Gonzalez, aka the financial literacy therapist. Welcome, brother, man. It's good to have you here back.
Nah, it's an honor to be here. It's good to have, I guess, to be part of the conversation still. After all this time is very important. It's something that we need to do. Uh, I guess, I've been part of leadership committees, as far as the Haitian American students organizations, did a lot of those things back in the past. And it still seems like the conversation has gone stagnant to just the same. Like, as a community, we always talk about the same issues, but we never move on from the issues to the solutions. And I think
Got
this is, yeah, I think even when you did the entire conference, virtual conference last year, it felt like it was a finally a push to something
Yeah,
versus the nothing at all. It's always like the same circle, circle,
right, right.
circle. But now we're finally like branching off to another universe where we say, okay, let's
Something
do
happened.
something about it. Yeah, let's do
Exactly,
something.
exactly, exactly. Yep,
So
yep.
I appreciate it. I feel like an
Definitely.
old head in the game, man. Old.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So, so let's get right into it, man. For those of you, I mean, for people that don't know you or don't know who you are, tell the audience who you are and what you do and what you've been doing in our community.
All right. My day job is a 9 to 5. I work for as a government auditor. But what I do as a passion, which means I just do it for fun on the side, is actually teach financial literacy. Some of my friends call me a financial therapist because the way I approach money sometimes kind of hit them a little bit hard. Some people get off the phone and go cry in the corner. But in truth, it's like once you kind of realize what you need to do and you start putting it in action, and then they hit you back up like maybe a couple months later, it's like, wow, this is actually working. And you could see, and you can't see it, but you could feel the excitement within them, that confidence, that booming, that's building. So I'm really trying to show people that it's possible to become a millionaire in your lifetime and really live a life that's very fulfilling all the way through. So it doesn't have to be at the end of the game that you find happiness, but you can find happiness very soon. And it's just about changing some of those whatever we're doing right now. So I
Small
don't try
changes,
to,
right?
yeah, I'm not trying to like this is why you never really see me like this suit, and tie thing and kind of look like, hey, you see me in front of a car. I don't care about none of that. I'm trying to make sure that everybody's happy. 'Cause I grew up in Haiti. I grew up around like people coming over because the door is always open, playing dominoes, listening to
Right.
stories. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see again. I want to see a community that really just happy all over again. I don't think we're as happy as we want to be.
Exactly. Definitely, definitely, brother. So, like I said, we are excited to have you here, and we're going to have a great conversation, a very transparent conversation. I mean, it's going to get it's gonna get a little.
Yeah, I try to be in my best behavior. I always say that to myself, like, come on, dog, don't do it, don't do it. But I'm from Dade County. Like, I was born and bred in the hood. So we tend to be a little bit more rough around the edges. And it doesn't
Yeah, but
it's not.
it's gonna be a rough ride. But so buckle your seatbelts, everybody. So our topic for today is the power of long-term investing. But before we dive into that, we want to make sure we talk about different things that we notice in our community and different questions that people had during our last conference that they need answers to, right? And I know, you've been in that field for quite some time now, and you have, you can point them in the right direction. So this is the reason why we're having that conversation here. So things we're going to talk about is the get quick scheme. I can't even
Get
say
rich, get rich quick scheme.
exactly, and the Ponzi schemes, and how to avoid those things, how to avoid being scammed, how to spot a scammer, different investment vehicles that people are doing right now that are not effective. You know what I mean? So these are the conversations we're gonna have, and after that, we're gonna dive into practical ways of for people to start investing. That way, they can have a long term gain and things like that. So, like I said, I'm excited. I'm excited for this conversation, and so as we all know, we are in the middle of crisis, right? So we are in the middle of a pandemic, and it's very tough nowadays to a lot of people are losing their jobs, and it's very tough, right? So what I usually see happening during a crisis or during especially during this pandemic is like there's a rise of scammers, people scamming, taking advantage of folks, right? So my question to you, man, how how can we protect ourselves from these guys, right? So usually, these guys are very charismatic. They wear the suits. They're looking fly, or they're very persuasive as well. So how can we protect ourselves from these guys?
I actually started like even writing stuff down because I think it's always important to see because while people are talking, I always notice that everybody even drops information. Like even what you said, a couple words into it, you're like, okay, that's some deep thoughts, and we don't take enough notes and we don't listen to other people more. We just kind of our intent is always
Exactly.
reply versus like
We
really
listen to
listen.
respond, but not to understand.
Yeah, like listening to what it is, and I think it's very important to say that we've always been in a crisis. I think Black people have always been in a state of crisis where we never had enough money. So this is not new. So when the pandemic happened, to while other people are acting like it's a brand new scenario, it's always been the same. Like every year before that, 2019, 2018, you didn't have no money. 2020 was not the first year you realized you didn't have no money. You never had it before. So it's not the pandemic that created this state of fear and just kind of like like backsliding. It's always been there. You just a lot of people just never aware of it. So as we get to that point, you just have to remember that you are a human being and you need to start planning ahead of these level of crises because it's always going to happen. So it's kind of like that if you're driving around with a car that's like nearly on empty, that at some point you're going to run out of gas. So why do it to yourself? Start planning ahead. Start actually putting gas in the car. Start actually making it move again. So we have to be honest with where we are and what we're doing. And to be when we think about scammers, those guys have always been around. My uncle was a scammer to me when I was a kid. Like, you ever when you give your parent when you
Right.
give your parents straight up like a $20 bill or something like for your birthday, you got from one person, you got 20, and the other person comes around and is like, hey, let me hold it for you.
Yep.
My uncle would come back, let me hold this $20 for you, right? So I'm watching him hold it. I'm like, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna give it back to you. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, when are you gonna give it back? That's the question. And then he's like, I'll give it back to you later. So I'm like, all right, it seems like he's going out tonight, and he seems like he's having a good time. And he put it in his wallet. So the next day, I'm like, hey, where's my $20? And he's like, I'll give it to you later. And a month later from that, I'm like, where's my $20? And lo and behold, he's like, hey man, do I always give you stuff? And next thing you know, you have no $20.
Yep, it's good. It's good now.
So day one, you should have known that scammers exist, and they don't necessarily have it against you as much more as an opportunity from you. It's not, and we were talking about that yesterday when you kind of dropped the topic. And I thought to myself, is like a lot of people that get scammed were almost susceptible to being scammed to begin with. So if you're always looking for this shortcut, if you're always looking for, trying to get rich quick, so the person that shows up with the get rich quick is the person that you want to work with. Even when you know for a fact that a person is kind of selling a scam, you're like, you know what? Not just with myself. No, not just let me check it out. Let me get into it so I can scam others. Like the scammers really, it's almost like you talk to the same language of other scammers. Like it doesn't work on me. Like somebody shows up and says, hey man, we can sell insurance. I'm like, that's fine. I'm very happy within myself. So I don't need to go sell insurance. Like, and I literally asked that person, so what would you do with all this money? I'll get more money. I'm like, more money. And then at what point does it end? Like, oh yeah, I could just buy a house. What if I don't want a house? What if I don't want the car? What if I don't want all this stuff? And this is where it messes up scammers, because they're like, hey, you don't understand the game. I'm like, I understand the game, but you just want stuff. You don't even know why you want stuff. Exactly. I know why I want stuff. I don't want a big house. I don't want a fancy car. I've driven all those things. I've been in big homes. It doesn't do anything for me. But for people that's looking for those type of opportunities in life to like stunt on other people, or basically a malicious intent. I want to be dressed in something that other people look at me and give me confidence and likes. Mm-hmm. I want to be seen by everybody else so I can feel important. That's not real. It's weird. It's just not really, important to me. So if you're susceptible to scam, I'll be honest, like check yourself, because you might be a scammer.
Woo. Wow. That's some heat right there, man. That's some heat. So I guess for people listening, so you're pretty much saying the person have to look within themselves, right? To check to see whether or not they're a scammer themselves. So, but I guess from the other side, are you able to? Are there different ways? Are you able to identify those folks? Right? Is there like, I don't know? Are there some characteristics of scammers? Like you can look and say, okay, this guy's a scammer. Like from the moment he opened his mouth, like this guy's a scammer, right? Because
yes,
what I want to do what I want to do in this community is to, I guess, create an environment where we have, people who have integrity and the people who are doing business the right way, and not just having, people who are trying to take advantage of our people, right? So, but how can we identify? Like I mentioned before, these guys are, they're very tricky, right? So they would come in as, they're here to help, they're here to provide opportunities, they're selling you a lifestyle, things like that. So how can we identify those people?
And it goes back to what we were just talking about. First, you have to check within yourself, but not just for a sense of like, if you're a scammer, as much more like, what are you lacking in that you feel that somebody else could give you? Like sometimes it's really about fixing the person you are and become almost like a wholeness. Like people, you're susceptible because you're basically want other things that other people have. Like you want the greed culture, you want the lifestyle, you want all this stuff, but why? What does it matter? Dig a little bit deeper and find out, maybe you just want to be happy. Maybe you just want to be, like you just want to find that one person in your life that makes you happy yourself and, build a home with. Maybe that's your why. So focusing on fixing who you are, finding that inner balance, like going working out to make yourself feel better, or even just, getting a better job, working on your soft skills, that kind of thing builds a certain level of like personal tolerance, right?
Yeah.
And then externally, when you start seeing people, right, when you're having conversation with people, notice one pattern. If it's perfect, then it's wrong. Because even this conversation that we're having right now, it's an imperfect conversation. That means I say whatever I feel like, and you say whatever you feel like, and there's no filter in between. There's no like reason in which I'm trying to add something to make me feel better. So there's some people really, they tailor conversations with people so that they always look great in your eyes. those people to me are problematic because they're the ones that are trying to scam you. They're trying to put like an active Instagram filter on you while you're having conversation with you.
Man.
That's the first thing. If it's perfect, listen, it's kind of like dating somebody for young ladies dating guys. If the guy is always perfect, then it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because a guy is a flawed character. He'll say something weird. He'll do something odd. That's the
Exactly.
true nature of it. A woman is a flawed character. She will do something weird. Something. It's just the nature of man.
Yeah, that's the nature of
Yeah,
everybody.
but when the person presents the perfect image, the perfect lifestyle, there's no error. There is no whatever. They're basically gaming the system. And
Yeah.
if they do have what is called the power of gap, right, which is the what rappers have or even poets have, the ideal that they could speak, but they can also be very like witty with the information that comes back and forth.
Mhm.
Should basically be aware of that. If it sounds always good, you're like, oh man, that guy's always sounding clap, 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 clap. It's a problem. Slow down, really think about it, and really start asking yourself, like, why is this person doing this? And if they are, for example, if they're making a lot of money, this is common sense, street logics, man. If people are making a lot of money, then why do they need you?
Man,
Like straight up,
that's it right there.
straight
That
up.
that answers
Like
everything right there.
you don't need me. If I was making millions, I'd be on Central Pay. I'd be like, hey Luther, man, you want to get on this Forex thing? And you say no. I'm like, all right, cool. And I move on. There would be no reason for me to kind of like come at you and be like, yo, man, like why don't you get on this team? And they start shaming you for not being on this thing. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if
yeah.
I'm making money, the person making money has no intrinsic value of trying to like almost convince you to make money because we're making money.
Exactly. There's no need. There's no need. Like if you there, then we can partner up, or we can go something together. But there's no need. And I've seen people um become enemies with their friends, right? Just because they didn't join their um group, or they didn't participate, or they didn't support them, or support their, I don't know, the business,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it doesn't have to be that way. And I see someone just mention MLM, and this is the exact this is the exact next question we're gonna jump into. So, um, one of the popular questions we had during our last conference last year is about MLMs and their business structure and the business model. Um, so let's talk about it a little bit. Would you say the MLM is a legitimate a legitimate business business model? And what's your take on it, man?
My take is, like I said, I keep it real simple. That's why they call me the neighborhood finance guy. It's not nothing complicated. It's just like looking at it. An MLM, it is structured as a pseudo legitimate business in which they just bring in people and they convince people like a cult to buy into their product. So
Mm-hmm.
when they buy into the product, they don't lie. Like they really do a good job of like writing down the contractual agreements so that people get into it in a legitimate way. So they could set them up to this kind of like, hey, and it'd be silly too. It's like buy product from me first, as say if I'm Primerica. I don't know who you are. Like if I was like Logi X. I'm just saying the company I created is Logi X.
Right.
And I say, hey man, you could be your own business owner. Guess what? Buy my product and then you sell it on your own. That sounds kind of silly to me. It's not like a bad scenario. Like where's the money I'm getting? And plus, you buy my product, you buy the services fees, you buy all this stuff, and then you get other people to buy those products,
Hmm.
and then you get those people to buy products too, and then you become this millionaire thing. And it's in of itself, it's not necessary. And this is why it's hard to kind of put them in the fraud category, and you can't, the legal system can't completely go after them because they're writing it in their contract, but people aren't reading anymore. Just like we're not reading every time we update an app,
Right.
like we just kind of like, hey,
That's
they're
that's
like
right.
contract, like agreed, scroll to the very bottom, privacy, whatever, agreed, moving
Agreed. Agreed.
on.
Agreed.
So we're not reading this stuff, and it's written right in there as to the provisions, how to everything is actually laid out. So to me, an MLM is just a waste of time. Like, why would I need to buy stuff and then resell it just to get my money back? It sounds kind of retarded. It's like I already had my money. Like, why would I do this?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. And it's and it's the way, like I said, is the way they're trying to sell it to you, right? They said, hey, I have this wonderful opportunity. You're gonna change your life. You're gonna be able to work from home. and things of that nature. And people listening to that, especially those who are working on 9 to 5 or doesn't, someone who doesn't have a job right now, and they see it as, hey, that's an opportunity for me to do something different or try something. But usually what ends up happening is they, either give up at some point, they get tired of it because, it doesn't take them anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the sad part is because those people are targeting desperate people, which is what we're talking about. The idea of you're already desperate, you're already looking for an easy out, you're already looking for all the other things, and sometimes you even said that you see the MLMs, they do like these conferences, people they get dressed up,
Oh yeah,
they now. Yeah,
yeah,
that now they look like what they want to appear to everybody else. They're meeting all these other people that are saying that they're CEOs, but you can literally title yourself CEO on Instagram, and everybody believes you're a CEO for some reason. That's not how it works. So the idea is people are trying to look for almost belonging and affirmation from others, and also just to join like almost like a gang. It's like as you join this gang, you
yeah,
have this feeling, you get this, this endorphins pushing you through, and then you're like, all right, I'm just gonna sell, 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 and then I'm gonna become a multi-millionaire. But it's never been the case. Nobody, 9 times out of 10, if you really do some research and you read thoroughly, it never happens this way. If it was so, then everybody would have done it eons ago, not like 5 years ago, like millennia ago.
hmm
It doesn't work because it's never worked millennia beyond you. You really
exactly.
have to start thinking to yourself that it's not about beating the system in this arbitrary rate. It's just about like understanding what you need to live with and live for, having a purpose. If your purpose is just to scam, like I guess flex on others, that's not a real purpose. That's just
Yeah,
I don't know
it
what
won't,
that is.
it won't take you far either, right? It won't take you
Yeah.
far, and you'll eventually get exposed, and it's just, I don't know, it's not a good route, man. It's.
And then you lose your friends too. You lose your friends, you lose your family. Because as soon as somebody shows up with an MLM, I'm like, I unfollow. Then I find like 5 other friends close to them. I unfollow them too. I'm like, y'all all getting all
Oh,
this
you went
heat.
that far
Like
now.
y'all getting this heat. Like I'm that kind of savage. I'm like,
You
because
went that
if
far,
you're
man.
not really my friend, like you're not really my friend if you're trying to set me up. If
Yeah,
you know for a fact that this is a problem, at some point you realize it doesn't make any sense, and I know a lot of people do, but you're still trying to sell it to me, that means you don't care about my well being. That means we're not really friends. So I unfriend, unfollow. I don't care if you're family. I don't care if you're down the street from me. I'm just I'm good. And I like what Chocolate on Fire says. Show me your bank statement. I used to
yeah.
tell that to people all the time. Show me your tax return.
Show me
If
proof.
you're rich, show me your tax return, man. Like straight up. Like I could show you my tax return any day of the week. Why? Because I got money. When people got money, we're not afraid of all this stuff. Like we show it to people, man. It is what it is. When
Yeah,
you don't have the money, you kind of like, I don't know if I could show you my return. Like that's when you can see it in their eyes too. If you start asking some real questions, you can see how they kind of get jostled and they don't know how to respond towards, especially that question, like show me your tax return. They get really spooked.
oh man, they'll be gone in a second.
Oh no, they get mad, they get agitated, they get angry. And the more you get angry, I'm like, if you're rich, why are you angry?
Mm.
Why are you angry, bruh? Because rich people ain't angry. Like really rich people, they don't get angry.
Right.
It's a twist.
If I say no, why are you bothered? Like, why are you bothered by this? Like,
I'm I'm like, Luther don't want to be on
exactly,
the hey, you want to make that money, that's cool. Like, it's cool.
exactly. It's yeah, and I also want to dive in because I think that's another question we had is that one was about forex, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that a lot in our community, and I think yesterday I was explaining to you how some way somehow my little sister got involved into that. So she got involved without me knowing, right? So when I find out, I was like, what is going on? And when I saw the whole model and it's the way they create it. I don't think I have any problem with forex itself, but it's the uh, I guess the group that she joined I had an issue with. So they create that MLM model with it, where she would have to bring people in, and she has there's certain dues you have to pay monthly and things like that, whether you're making money or not, right? So she was, she joined and she's part of training, blah blah blah. They hyping her up. They're doing a lot of personal development stuff, which was good because she was learning a lot on that. And when I find out, I was like, yo, what's going on? Like, this is my sister. I'm the one advocating, against, those type of scams and stuff, and trying to create a community where people can build lasting wealth. And now my own little sister got involved in this, so I was like, yo,
You're
what's
a
going on?
terrible brother. You're a terrible brother, man.
Yeah, so I'm like,
Like,
yo,
you're
I
terrible with
realize
that.
about.
You failed, man. Like,
But here's the thing. So I didn't want to go to her and say, hey, this is wrong, get out, because I wanted it to be a teaching lesson for her. So, and I started asking her about the questions about it and say, hey, are you learning anything? I'm asking a bunch of questions. And then and my mom was like, okay, how do I approach her? Because I can't tell her, hey, stop doing this. Then I'm gonna be looking like this brother that just don't want her sister to try anything new, or don't want her sister to elevate. And so I said, you know what? I'm just gonna let her. She's gonna learn her lesson. So eventually, she's gonna lose her money. That's her money. But eventually, she's she's gonna find out this is wrong, and this is not the right thing to do, and she's gonna quit. And long behold, man, after a couple of months, she probably lost about $400, and she's like, "Yo, that's not
that's
right."
$400 she told you about. She probably
Well,
lost more than that. She probably lost a good grand or a little bit more. Like nine times out of 10, people don't tell you how much they lost because they don't even keep track of how much time.
that's a
And
fact.
now they're also losing time too. Time is the most valuable commodity that we all have, that we have a scarcity of. So the more time that you spend wasting with something, kind of like dating the wrong person for like a good 3 years or something like that, is 3 years you could have been dating somebody, the right person, or finding the other person, or
Exactly,
finding yourself.
exactly, man. So what's from that been said? So now she learned her lesson. She stopped doing that. She doesn't want to hear about that stuff anymore. But I get what's your take on Forex itself? Like
All right.
what's your
Let me, let
understanding?
me all right, let me start off with your sister's experience. I think every experience is valuable only if you speak to it, right? Because your sister, a lot of people, not just your sister, but I'm knowing a lot of people that have gone into a lot of scamming stuff, either be MLM, either be credit card repair, either be real estate, whatever it is, which basically a lot of South Florida, you find a ton of that, but they don't speak up about it. Because that's the wealth, the knowledge that you're gaining, the knowledge that your sister gained is something that she can actually share with other people, and that story itself could actually make her a credible expert, and she could save other people. I
Right.
always look at people like that. I'm like, yo, you have a story, you have a perspective, talk about it so you can actually help other people. That's the only thing we can do, especially after we made our mistakes. Additionally, I kind of want to talk about Forex because when you brought it up, I was like, man, I need to go do my because I already have the reasons why I do something, and
Yeah.
then I delete it and I move on. And I actually heard about Forex years ago, and I'll tell you exactly when too. But Forex itself is the foreign exchange. That's it's why it's Forex, the
Mm-hmm.
foreign exchange market. What the foreign exchange market technically is the difference between, let's say, USD versus like euro. Basically the the translation this translation monetary change between the both. So let's say if the US dollar is a dollar and then your euro is $1.30, then in between is the float. That's what the Forex really is. That's where that market actually happens. That's the easiest way I could like break it down to you. But it's actually something we've seen before in life. It's called com. You ever been to a com place in Haiti where you exchange money?
You saying come transfer?
Well, like a com place where you go
Yeah,
exchange
yeah, yeah, yeah,
money.
yeah.
Like that's exactly what the Forex is. The Forex is the space in between. It's where one money becomes another money.
Yeah.
So what people try to trade in between is when, let's say the US, let's say if it's like a dollar and then the euro is $1.30. If the US climbs, let's say a dollar and the euro is $1.20, people try to make profits in between. That 30 cents to 20 cents is the profit in between, but it's so minute that it's worthless to the average person. But the more and more people you get into the capital investment, and maybe you have a computer kind of running the spreads in between, maybe you make a certain amount of money, but it's never enough.
Yeah.
I learned this stuff like way back in Haiti, watching people do it. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. When I gave my uncle, yet again, my uncle, damn uncle, died, give him like $200 US. Yeah, I give him $12 US, and I'm like, I'm gonna need to get this, in Haitian good. So he goes out, he takes me to the place, right? So he tells me wait in the car, and he comes back with the money, and I'm looking at him like, based off the translation price, it should be this much. He's like, nah, but hey, whatever. Like, I'm like, no. It's supposed to be this much, but somebody pocketed in the middle, and then my uncle pocketed on the side, and he gave me probably $150 worth of U.S. money in Haitian good. So that trick,
uncle is a pro.
I'm telling you, like these people, like when you understand what the scam is, it's the legitimate business, but it's the in between that people are trying to make their profit out of. But it's just never worth it. It's just not. It's almost like you may as well just work a normal job. Like, it's kind of like day trading or like option trading. I'm like, just work a normal job. You'd be better off because you're literally working a job doing this entire thing called day trading because you're trying to find the candlestick model where you're buying and selling in between and trying to make a profit. That is Forex. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So from what I'm getting, Forex itself is legit. It's the embedded model that they create in front of it. That is it.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So basically, there's not a lot of money in foreign exchange. There's literally not a lot. It's almost like I want to say the currency. That's the name. The currency themselves are floating so close that it's a micro win. But people are trying to win within that microsecond. And that's what makes it kind of like, worthless in my opinion, because you're trying to make, like maybe what, $20 off of like $1,000 or something.
Yeah, it's like you said, like day trading.
Yeah, it's like, you're making maybe $2 off of 1,000 or something. It's just not worth the effort and the hassle because it's just your time. Your time is the most valuable asset you have. And the more you waste it on doing everything else, the less likely you have a chance to really invest in something that's gonna move your life forward.
Okay.
Damn, it sounds complicated, man. It sounds complicated and pointless, man. It's just pointless.
I'm glad we touch on this before we start talking about long-term investing and strategies for doing that. And I thought it was necessary to talk about these things that are happening in our community and how to protect our people in our community. So let's move on now to some positive stuff, right? So let's talk about some real practical ways someone can start building wealth.
Practical ways. Well, my story, I started back in 2012 with $125,000 worth of student loan debt. The first job I ever got out of college was making $23,000 before tax, or it was like 20. It's either 21 or 23. It was somewhere in between. Let's just say 22 before tax. I was really getting paid one time a month because it was like one of those monthly paycheck things. So I had to learn really quick how to budget and manage my money. And also, really, I felt the squeeze. I felt the squeeze like everybody else. Feel like, the rock is under your head. You don't have anything. You're in between a rock and a hard place. You don't have a lot of places to go. You feel a little stressed. You can't do anything with your money. But these were the times I was learning to do the right things, right? Being budgeting, figuring out meal prepping, figuring out where I was wasting my money. A majority of that was through food. I was spending about like $375 per month on food, but I wasn't really eating well. So I had to figure that out. I had to figure myself. But I was living in the quad. I tell this to everybody. I was living in a 4-bedroom apartment in Tallahassee with a couple of my friends post-college. And these guys, in totality, we were spending about $2,400 a month on food. $2,400 a month on food. Yes. And not just, I was spending $375, but the other guys, like one of my buddies was eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner out. You know what I'm saying? Like some guys were buying this, somebody was like that. And those micro spending ended up costing us a lot as a group. So I started noticing, even as a group of young millennials right now, we're doing these same exact things, not just in that one apartment, but everywhere else, because we're not tracking how much we're spending on all these little things. People started cutting down cable, which was good, but they started adding every other streaming device.
Yeah.
So you may as well be cable at this point. You got like 5 or 6 of them. Like,
end up costing more than cable. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're seeing some of these little things play out over and over again because it's not history that repeats itself. And it's something that somebody told me. It's not history. It's people that repeat themselves over and over again. We're making the same mistakes in circles and we're thinking we're smarter than the circle itself. So to actually fix your financial situation, you have to start with budgeting, learning identifying what your net worth is. So you can know exactly where you are. You're kind of like knowing what's going on, being aware of what's where you are in life.
how do you identify your net worth?
Your net worth, you can either do it on paper by identifying all your assets minus all your liabilities, but simply you could get on mint.com or personal capital,
Hmm.
plug in all your information, and you'll start seeing your net worth. And it's not even just the number itself, it's just being aware of what's going on. It's kind of like, going to school without actually knowing what your GPA is the entire
Yeah,
time. It's better that you get the report card so you can know
exactly.
exactly
You
where
know where
you
you
are,
are.
so you can make the improvements where you need to make the improvements.
Exactly.
So after that, it's money management. The idea that there is a financial order of operation that exists in which you can actually follow. One, making sure you have savings so you can have like some kind of well-being. So when you go to sleep, you're not going to sleep stressed out about anything that's going to happen to you. So some people say, hey, save up to 6 to a year, 3 months to 6 months. I say save at least 1,250 per person in your household to get started, just to kind of get there. If you're a single person, to save as much as 1,250 and just stop there and then focus on making sure that you're using all the other opportunities and avenues in your life. Either it be your 401k at your job or 403b or 457b, making sure you're getting the match, making sure that you're actually using things like the IRAs, the HSAs, and ultimately, if you actually did this, and I actually did some numbers yesterday just because I'm supposed to work on some of these posts later on. If you did that for like a good, let's say if as a single person you maximize your 401k, your IRA, your HSA, and did some micro investing, in 5 years you'd have $186,000. In 30 years you have 4.3 million. Straight up.
Wow.
That's literally how much you would have. Like you literally, like I did the entire math. I kid you not. That's what I do. I'm like a nerd. I look at this piece of paper. I just start jotting stuff down and start doing the math. Fait logiquement.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out all the details. So if a married couple did this, if they even were saving at least $60,000 a year, they'd in 30 years they'd have $8.5 million.
Wow. Yo,
Like in 5 years, this is simple. In 10 years, they'd have almost $1 million. This is not hard to do and it's easy to replicate, and it's not this get rich quick, it's not all this extra stuff, it's just as simple as possible. You allocate correctly, you're getting at least 9% and you're fine.
that's amazing, man. That's yo, those
It's
numbers right there. It's it's mind blowing, man. And it's like you said, it's possible. It's just we have to have discipline, and like you mentioned before, we have to budget, right? We know what's coming in and what's coming out. I think that's the biggest issue, honestly, because I think a lot of times we don't pay attention to that. And I know it's tough sometimes, right? It's tough to have those conversations with yourself. Recently I was having a conversation with someone, and that person was telling me it's hard for them to even take a look at their bank account.
oh yeah.
I'm like, in my mind, it's like that's a how can I say this? That's something you're gonna have to overcome, right? And I know it's not easy, right? So that's something you have to overcome and say, okay, well, I have to know where I stand financially, right? In
Mhm.
order for you to make a change, you have to know, like you mentioned earlier, you have to know where you are, you have to know where you stand, and you say, okay, well, based on what I see, I don't I don't like what I'm seeing, right? So now
Mhm.
I need to do some practical things and to remove myself from that position so I can move forward.
Yeah, these things are, it's one of those things that it's so human that they actually know there's a term for it called the ostrich effect. That's when you bury your head in the sand and you just hope that everything goes well because you don't want to, I guess, brave the bad situation. Everybody though doesn't want to feel bad, so they're trying to avoid it as much as possible. So they avoid understanding what their credit card interest fees are. They avoid understanding what's in their bank account or in their savings, because as long as they never face it, it never happened, and that in and of itself is the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem because in the long run, you're gonna have to deal with it eventually, right? So it's not something
Yes.
you can push off. You can push it as long as you want, but it's gonna eventually you're gonna have to deal with it. So the earlier you take action and trying to change that, the better for you, right? So you put yourself
Yeah.
in a better position the earlier you start making those changes. So I guess my next question to you, right? So I and that's the question a lot of people have been asking. It's just And with investing itself, right? And then we talked earlier about budgeting, emergency fund, and taking advantage of our benefits and our job, and we'll talk more on this later. But with investing itself, the question people always ask is how how can they get started, and where can they start? Like where and how? Like which platform do they use? Which brokerage account? How can they start?
And this is why I said there's like an order to it, because 9 times out of 10 people already have access to investing to begin with, where they're investing at their job, they're investing in their 401k. That's when people think about their 401k, it's like, oh, that's my travail, that's my job, use whatever. But inside your job's 401k, it's invested in different assets themselves that's invested in the market. So you're already technically invested, even if or you technically already have access to investments to a certain degree. So I would say start there. Start on your first, like that day, the first day of your HR, your job. HR gives you all these stacks to the papers, and you're like, and they even ask you, did you read that? And you're like, As you initial here, you sign there. Yet again, that remember that thing we talk about. We love to do it. We just say initial because we're just trying to get to the next thing. But the devil is in the details. The details are right there. How much are you getting in your matching contribution, which is 100%? Let's say your contribution is 5%. That could be at least $5,000 right there on the table. If you're not like paying attention, it could be 3,000, it could be 2,000, depending on how much you're making. But ultimately, it's right there for you. But you're like, I don't want to, I don't want to deal with that, and I want to do this. I want to do Forex or something like that with my money.
Quick,
but in essence, you already have those type of things available to you, assets or even vehicles available to you right then and there, right? So use it. Take this weekend, for example, take this Saturday, take this Sunday, look back at what's already available to you, try to understand them, or even start asking people like me, you, or even online questions about, hey, what am I invested in? What's in my what is a 401k? Right. Some people don't even know what that is. What's a 403b?
That's the question I was going to ask you. Actually, that was my next question. What 401k? Let's talk about it.
Ah, man, this guy was trying to get you in a. Okay, a 401k is an employer-sponsored plan that existed. It was actually created by Kodak, the company. That's why it has the K in the back. But government legislative, they try to always put it somewhere so it could like tongue in cheek, like it's a 401k. Yeah. So it's a provision in the tax code that allows you to invest in a tax deferred way. That means if you're making $69,000 or $69,500 a year, right? You can invest, or you could always do that. You can invest up to $19,500 in 2020 and also 2021 in your 401k, 403b, or 457b. Every year or so, they kind of reallocate it and readjust it. Sometimes they increase it by another 500. Maybe in 2022, it'll be $20,000 that you can actually contribute into your 401k, 403b, or 457b. So ultimately, at your job, you could invest in the market within very broad categories, either it be small cap, large cap, or whatever it is. But when they're talking about all this stuff, it's basically investments that they're grouping together, either be Disney, Coca-Cola, Walmart, whatever it is, into these categories that you can invest in. So inside your job, you're investing as a group with your job, your own money into your own account. If that makes any sense.
That makes sense. So is it before tax or after tax? And I get into Roth, and then about the difference as well.
It is before tax. So that means when, let's say if you're making 69.5 K a year and you're invested 19.5, you'll be taxed at only $50,000. So whatever you invest in, you'll be taxed at a little bit underneath there. Let's say if you're making $55,000 and you invested $5,000 into your 401k, 403b, or 457b, whatever it is, you only be taxed at $50,000. Okay. So they're basically saying that later on, when we withdraw the money, when you defer it all the way to the end, when you're withdrawing the money, you'll be taxed on the withdrawal, or your total withdrawal of that money. So every year, let's say down the line, you have $1 million in your 401k. Every time you withdraw $40,000 at that 4% retirement rule, you'll be taxed at 40,000 minus your whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. So you'll be taxed at a little bit like 10%, maybe.
Okay. That makes sense. So now let's talk about Roth IRA and the difference with that
Okay,
the 401k for people who.
there. Okay, there's traditional style, which is tax deferred, and
Hmm.
then there's Roth. Roth was created by some guy named Rothschild, or like a congressman, a senator, or something like that. It's a different way of actually investing, where you can invest a certain amount of money, but it's you're basically paying the taxes as you accumulate it, but no taxes on withdrawal.
Hmm.
So there is such a thing as the Roth 401k. It exists where you can actually invest, up to 19,500 and pay the taxes as you go, so you don't pay the taxes in the end. There's these other mediums called individual retirement accounts, which sometimes, if your job is not offering a 401k, 403b, 457b, I will say all the words to all those things. But if your job doesn't offer that, you can always kind of get into a brokerage and try to get an IRA, which either comes in two forms. Think
Hmm.
of them like twins. There's a traditional style and then there's a Roth style.
Okay.
Traditional, we talked about already. Tax deferred. That means the limit now is $6,000 for 2021. So you could actually invest $6,000 for 2021, take the tax deferment on it for in the next year's taxes, and then later on have to pay the taxes if you're using traditional. If you're doing the Roth, you're not taking any tax deferment, and then at the back end, there is no tax. So there is no tax on the growth. There is no tax on the dividends. There's just no taxes for you down the end.
Okay.
There are benefits for both.
Hmm.
And depending how much you make, if you're in a very like a trajectory that's going to make more and more money over time, especially like if you're a doctor, lawyer, or one of those professionals that the amount of money you're making is very high, then the Roth might be something you look into. If you're making like if you're working at McDonald's or Walmart for pretty much the entire life or something like that, you're making a certain steady income and you're not shifting tax brackets. There's almost no difference if you just stick your money in traditional.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense, man. You explained that really well, man. And I think
Hey man, it's a lot, bro. It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. But I think you put the audience or people who didn't know about it in the right direction where they can go out there and dig some more and do some more research on it and find out more about it. So I guess my next question. I know we're kind of running out of time. We got about 7 minutes, but I didn't want to leave without asking that question. Um, I wanted you to explain to the audience the difference between a stock, index fund, and a mutual fund.
Okay, back in our parents' ages, when our moms and dad had to go to the banks themselves to actually figure out what to invest in, they went into the banks and the banks offered mutual funds. Mutual funds are general funds that everybody gets into the bank, and generally that's what the bank used to do: put yourself in a mutual fund, take a lot of fees for the management of it. So they're paying the managers of those funds to buy and sell on your behalf in the entire group, but they're taking a lot of fees in their cut of the profits. Even if you make profit, even if you make money or not, as far as the market gains, they don't care. They're making their money off of you. So mutual funds are now considered one of the worst forms of investing because they take a lot of fees from you over time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, yeah, you might think $50 is nothing, but if you start using something like personal capital and you see the fee analyzer, it'll show you that, hey, that $50 eventually ends up costing you $250,000 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that it does make a difference. The most basic form of investing is a stock. That's the only way I could explain it to people.
Mm-hmm.
Stocks are ownership, are partial ownership in a company. So let's say you had one share of Coca-Cola and the value of it was, I don't even say Coca-Cola because I think I know AT&T more than anything. If you had one share of AT&T and it's probably valued at $28 now, you only had one share and you just carry it with you. Whereas ETF is a group of shares. So it's not just one share. It's not just one holding. It's a lot of different holdings. Think of that more like the Cheetos. You remember the chips pack when you used to have the massive chip pack where you have the Cheetos, the Fritos, the
Right,
Lays, all that stuff.
exactly.
Think of that as
That's
that's the ETF.
that's a great way to explain it. Yep.
Yeah, that's the best way to explain an ETF because that's what it is. You're getting an entire pack of a lot of things, and then you're trying to resell it to everybody else. Think about owning all these different companies. Some companies are going to do well. Some companies are not going to do so well. So therefore, the ETF is trying to balance those things out. That's what an ETF is.
Perfect.
So yeah, I think that's probably the best way to explain it. It's kind of like going to like one of those 7-Elevens. And you open that soda thing, and it's like, hey, there's all these different sodas. Like if you buy out of Coca-Cola, let's say if you buy like the black Coca-Cola one, and you're like, yeah, man, I'm making money. I'm beating. I don't like Pepsi, so therefore I buy Coca-Cola. What if I bought shares of all of them? So it doesn't matter which one you buy. I'm making money no matter what. And that's what you're trying to think about, investing in stocks and where it's going. And ultimately, everybody, like, no matter what it is, if you're trying to be happy with yourself, it's not the investments that are going to make you happy because that's a roller coaster ride, man. Even last week was a terrible week. It's a terrible week. You know, so it's not just an easy game. It's a long-term game. So over the long term, it makes sense. Over the long term, it makes sense. But in the short term, it's like a roller coaster. But think about it like walking up a hill with a yo-yo. So the yo-yo keeps going up and down, but you're going up the hill steadily. So that's where the growth happens.
Exactly. One last question for you, brother.
Whew, so it's a lot.
That's it. That's the last one. And I know we asked this question on our page, actually, on our Haitian Millennial Money page. And we had different answers. Folks were giving their take on it, which was really good. It was a very engaging post. So for people listening, would you, I guess, what's your take on it, right? So should someone start investing, or if they're in debt, right, should they start investing or start paying off their debt first?
Okay, I'm try to bring it full circle. So back, like I said, everybody, like I started off with $125,000 worth of student loan debt, and by all accounts, I probably should have been done paying that debt off in 2020 if that's all I did with my time, but I didn't. I still have $90,000 worth of student loan debt, but yet my net worth has grown since I'm actually looking at some numbers right now from 2016. My net worth has grown $525,000 in that time. Majority of it comes from growth that I had in investment of $340,000, and also the value of the homes that I've actually had. So a lot of those growth factors are getting in there. The reason I say, I guess online you find a lot of people pushing the Dave Ramsey approach, which is get out of debt as soon as possible, because for some people, debt is so debilitating that this is the only option that they think that they have. That's just the way it is. Like, because his message is simple, it's easy, and it's popular, people think that that's really the only way out of the game, but it's really not. I actually didn't focus on paying down just debts. I focused on paying down credit card debt because that was actually taxing me per month. Yeah, you want to get rid of those as soon as possible, especially if you have $5,000, $6,000, try to get rid of that as soon as possible because it's not a massive amount. This is not a life altering amount. Even if you have like 20,000, it'll take you some time, but you don't want to leave money on the table. Like we talked about in the 401k, 403bs and stuff like that. I actually invested in my 401k, and over the last 5 years, it has made me at least $200,000 richer for it. Versus if I just wasted my time, just focusing on paying down my debt. Like it's a give or take balance. Like you have to understand what investing itself could earn you probably 12 to 20%. And sometimes if you got the right investment, you can become a millionaire, pretty quickly. I even like 20 to even 400% a year. So there is these opportunities that exist versus that your debt itself is a stagnant amount. Student loan debt is like 6% or less. It's always going to be that. Your housing debt is like 3% or less versus like if you're going to think about it like numbers, if you're minus one side is -3, but your uptake over here is like +10, then you're kind of netting out at +7. That's all that means. That's all that means. And so some people, if that's for them to make them feel better, is to pay down debt, that's on them. But for me, I'm all about making total wealth changes. It's not just a small sliver of like debt payment that makes me comfortable, because you could be debt free and broke. Like the budgetista said too. Like I know some people that are debt free. Like my little cousin who's like 5 years old, he's debt free. like, like, but he's broke. You know what I'm saying? Or like my goddaughter, she's debt free, but she's broke. Like a lot of people, it's easy to be debt free and really have nothing to show for it. I think it's better to be a little bit more savvy about financial literacy as a whole, because that's a holistic change and that's going to really make a change in your life. In the last, if you humor me, I think I'm gonna have to open up one of my Excels to actually look at the numbers, because I actually started tracking them very well. Say charts and graph or something, and I'll share it to you this second. Annual tracker, because it actually shocked me, exactly the level of growth I've had over time.
Just waiting on Lawrence. If you have any questions for Lawrence, please put it in the comment and
Ask it, man.
yeah.
I definitely want to make sure that people become more wealthy in their lifetime, because I'm fine no matter what. I'll be all right. But other people, not so much. Let's say from negative $125,000 in net worth to zero, it took me 4 years, 10 months, and 22 days. From zero to 500,000 net worth, like $500,000 net worth, is gonna take me 3 years, 10 months, and 9 days. So the more and more you accelerate this process, the quicker and quicker it gets. By the time we get to millionaires, like it'll be like this year we become half millionaires, but to get to millionaire status, it's going to take us an additional 2 years, 8 months, 2 years, 8 months, and 0 days. This is the speed in which you can start, really doing a better job of managing your money. That makes a lot more sense than just your debt payoff.
Yeah.
Because wealth. Yeah, I'll finish with this. Wealth itself as an equation looks like this. It's wealth is contributions times rate of return times time. So it's three things. It's the time you haven't, it's your contributions that you're putting in, as much as you're putting in, as fast as you're putting it in, the amount of time that you allow it to grow, and also the rate of return that you're pulling in. That's really all it's ever been.
And I think we're gonna end it right there on that note. Man, that's amazing, brother. That's amazing. That your contribution, your time, and your rate.
Yeah.
Three.
It's man, if I try to tell people, man, it's really only taking me and my wife now. It's going to take us less than 7 years to become millionaires.
Less than
From
7 years.
zero to a million. No, I literally have the numbers in front of me, man. Like straight up numerals. Like it's not something I kind of make up. I'm really tracking the heck out of this stuff, and I'm looking at it. It's like from zero to a million. It'll take 6 years and 6 months. And that's what I'm trying to give people, that peace of mind. The more and more you
6 years and
stay,
6 months.
yeah, if you do it
What
the
you're
right
doing
way,
now.
yeah, if you do it the right way, you're gonna get to a millionaire status. I think a lot of people see like, oh, I need to be rich next year, and they waste their time trying to do all these like MLMs and scams or whatever.
Yeah.
And it 2 years from now, 3 years from now, but they're shortcutting the contributions that they could be making and the time they could have in the market, plus the rate of return they could be getting to build up the actual wealth that they want. All of this is doable in our lifetime, but we need to stop looking at the get rich quick and start really understanding that there is a process you can follow.
Mm-hmm. So we have a few questions. I think Zeke the
Oh
prophet
man.
asked a question. So let's see. He's asking.
Oh shoot.
So this is a total wealth theory you just dropped. Spoke on low interest like home loans, student loans. Are you still proposing to tackle high interest debt like credit card first?
Always proposing that, because if it's high enough, it could be tearing into your profit. So for one thing, I've actually learned, or I actually met different people that never looked at the interest rate, the interest fees that they're getting per month on all their credit cards. I actually did that exercise a couple years back and found out, like in the span of like 5 years, that I spent around like $6,000 worth of just on interest. 6,000, you could do a lot with 6,000, man. It could be a nice little trip wherever you want to go, or buying whatever clothes you want to buy. That's 6,000 you could have had for yourself, but you paid an interest to somebody else. So do that like exercise of tracking your interest and start noticing how much money is just slipping away from your pockets. And then you can start making decision. Do I put more of that in investments, or do I, or savings, whatever you want to put it, or do I contribute a lot more to my credit card repayment so I could get out of there quicker, so I could use more of my money for my own purposes.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So next question we have, any advice? I think this question is for me as well, because I'm a risk adverse person. Any advice for the risk adverse on how to pull the trigger on investing?
How to pull the trigger on investing? There's
Great question.
yeah, there's yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's poignant because I think a lot of people start off really scared, and this is why I try to I share that one my idea of dividend portfolio investing on my website, and just kind of break that down with everybody. Just starting off with companies like Coca-Cola, like AT&T, or whatever it is, and you start off with what is known as dividend investing. So it's not as like hardcore as investing for trying to find these, big wins,
Mm-hmm.
as much more that you're investing in established companies that are going to pay you out quarterly no matter what.
Yep. Yep.
So if you're established, let's say if you had 100 stacks, you had 100 stacks and you invested in like a good portfolio, dividend portfolio itself at 3%, you'd be bringing in what, 3 grand a year just on dividends alone, as the companies are growing themselves. Especially in moments like this where the market pulled back, you could definitely start investing like as soon as possible, and you could just keep growing. Remember, the goal is to get inside, contribute as much as possible, allowing the amount of time to actually do its work, and also allowing the rate of return to bring you up. But on top of that, dividend investing introduces dividends themselves as bringing in guaranteed money quarterly. So if you feel a little scared and timid, just watching the money come in, it'll start building a little bit more
Yeah.
confidence in
That's
you and
that's a
understanding
small
it.
passive income you're making too.
Yeah, but you start feeling it. Like it's like, oh, I get it now. I get, oh, this is working. Versus if you left all your money into a savings account making less than 1% a year, the banks are laughing at you. You could have been making just as much money investing instead of actually leaving your money in, for example, Bank of America. You could invest it in Bank of America, making way more money.
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
man,
I don't see any more questions, so I guess
people out here with the drip drip. They know about that drip.
sick about it.
But
So I guess we'll end it right there, man. Lawrence, once again, thank you, man. Thank you for always, being
mm.
available to our community and to our platform, and we appreciate what you're doing in our community, man. I know you have different things you're working on, so tell the people where they can find you, what you're working on, and what should they be expecting.
Man, thank you for being, I guess allow me to be on your platform and just being transparent to have this kind of conversation without the suits and tie and the cool looks and whatever it is. Just trying to be honest with people.
Yeah,
As soon as you started saying it, I actually looked up my M1 and I like, oh shoot, I got some dividends from Pfizer and from Starbucks of like $6.14.
nice.
Bang, banking in the
Dang,
game, all right.
dang.
But everybody can actually find me on IG on the Neighborhood Finance Guy, or even on my website, the neighborhoodfinanceguy.com, which was built by my wife. The last time we were on, I actually wasn't married, so I'm actually married now. So it's like I'm a
Nice.
different guy. I'm different. I
Congratulations.
know things. Um, Ultimately, though, like ask questions everywhere. You had the Haitian Millennial, conference. Everyone, hopefully, it pops up like a conference. I'm waiting for the conference, not just the
It's
actual
coming, man.
IG.
It's
The
coming.
conference,
Summer,
we
it's
want
coming.
people to get a little bit closer to that. Get on Coin podcast, especially Haitian native speakers. They're gonna have a translator now. They're gonna switch it up a little bit, help people really understand the concepts. It's the it's out there. The knowledge is there. Let's
Yeah,
get this the right way. Let's not get this to flaunt on people. Let's not get this to stunt on people. But let's show up in let's play dominoes again. Let's be a family again. Let's be a community
exactly,
again.
exactly, exactly. Thanks again,
So
brother, and appreciate it. Guys, keep following Haitian Melino Money. Keep following Lawrence. Just put yourself in position to win and to grow wealth, and let's build as a community. So this is, I guess, the first of our monthly series. So we'll have this type of live every month. We'll have the different guests every month. So stay tuned. We're working on a lot of great stuff. Merlin and I, we're excited. This summer coming up, we have another conference. We're not gonna say much about it yet, but there's another one coming up. So stay tuned, guys. And once again, it's your boy Luther. Don't forget to follow Coin Podcast as well. We have an episode dropping on Monday. We had Widley, who's going to talk about how he paid off $35,000 in debt in 14 months. So go check it out on
What?
Monday. We're gonna drop that one. So it was a pleasure. Thank you guys. Stay connected. Thank you guys.
Absolute pleasure.
All right.
Deuces. 222.
$35,000 in debt in 14 months.
I'm trying to get this thing. All right, cool. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I was gonna let you know that he's paid 35. Me and the wife about to pay 100 in 13 months.
Oh shoot! Wait, we need to have you on the podcast again, man, because you need to.
Hey, I'm telling you now, like the thing that I'm trying to teach y'all is like there's a process. I already laid it out for y'all. Like this is it, man. This is the win.
That's
This
the
is the
thing you were
win.
saying. The information is there. It's just like people is not. I don't know. They're not curious enough, and they.
No, it's hard to understand it, but I put it out there. The net max plan itself, I'm showing people it works. Like when people say they paid out 35, I'm like, I think I paid off 35 last year or even more. Or whatever it is. Like it's always like something. But this year for sure, me and the wife, we're pushing for the 100 stacks by February of 2022. Yeah.
That's
Nice
cool.
little. It's crazy, man, but it's possible. It's doable as long as like the market cooperates. Hopefully, one day, people don't go nuts. Retail investors trying to get this money right, but they're messing up my averages. First quarter is always a little bit rough though. So second quarter is supposed to be better for investing. Hopefully, at least that's my theory.
Give me 1 second. Let me. I don't want to lose the live, so I'm trying to post it before I lose it.
Oh yeah.
Alrighty. The power of long-term investing. So that's good. Post. All right. Yeah. I'm back. Thank you, man. I think that was great. That was great. I think we covered what we needed. Lay down the schemes before we give them practical steps to get things started. So that was great.
Yeah. I learned a lot about Forex last night, man. And I'm just gonna
Oh yeah,
delete that out my brain.
you did some digging.
I realized I learned this stuff too. I heard about it as well and in MBA classes, the idea of foreign exchange markets and how companies go